Okay, so we're finishing up our unit on the civil rights movement. What was the major strategy used when during the civil rights movement? Abigail.
Nonviolence.
Nonviolence. So what is nonviolence? How is nonviolence being used during the civil rights movement? Lucia.
There was a lot of protesting.
Okay, so protesting. Someone explain to me more about protesting. Tyler.
Where they would march around the streets and hold signs.
Very good. So there was marching. They had marching. They held signs for what they wanted. What else might happen during a protest?
They would do what they were told to do.
What do you mean?
Like if they got arrested, they would just listen instead of be violent.
So if they got arrested, they wouldn't physically act violent, right? So they would just go with them. Okay, what else can we talk about nonviolent? Nonviolent tactics during the civil rights movement. Speeches. What was our big speech we learned about during this movement? Almost every hand should be up, Kevin. Kevin, what speech? Which one? I have a dream speech. And what was the purpose of a I have a dream speech? Aiden.
Show how Martin Luther King had a dream of freedom.
A dream of freedom? What else did we talk about during that speech? A dream for equality?
Martin Luther King wanted the African Americans to stop fighting for their freedom.
They didn't want them to stop fighting for their freedom. What were some ways he felt they should fight for their freedom? Physically? How did they want them to fight for their freedom?
When he said that Abraham Lincoln promised them that if they fight with him, they will be free forever.
Okay, so how did he want African Americans to fight for their freedom?
For like how to fight by marching and going with to get arrested to not fight for.
So what is all that called? He said marching, not to fight back. What is all that called?
Nonviolent.
Nonviolent. Okay, so we're going to watch a quick video on Martin Luther King's legacy, the nonviolent strategy. Okay, so now we're going to watch the video on Martin Luther King's legacy and the nonviolent strategy.
Well.
All right.
Reverend Martin Luther King's nonviolent movement was inspired by the teachings of Indian leader Mahatma Gandhi. Throughout the South, King put the spotlight on prejudice.
Okay, so we watched that video of how Martin Luther King fought back with nonviolence. What do you think the message of nonviolence is? What do you think their sole purpose was fighting discrimination and injustice by using nonviolence? Aiden.
They wanted to show how they could be peaceful and live in an environment because they would not just fight.
Okay, to show the peaceful side of it, what else can we say about the message of nonviolence? One.
They wanted to be violent with the police.
So they weren't going to be violent like the police. Why do you think that was so significant? It was the police who were acting violent on them. Why was that significant, Abigail?
Because they didn't want to show how the white people thought of them as monsters versus normal people.
Very good. So they didn't want to show the white people that they were monsters. What else do you think the message of nonviolence is? Here are a couple more thoughts. The message of nonviolence. Eddie.
That if they're nonviolent, then especially the white people, that they can be accepted and they're not going to cause any harm in their communities.
Okay, so that they be accepted, they're not causing harm, they are equals, and they're not violent people. Very good. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to break up into our groups. And the groups are on the board. So we are going to be working on the thought of nonviolence and what living a nonviolent life means. So when you get in your group, you guys are going to be analyzing quotes about nonviolence. So people who have significant thoughts about fighting with nonviolence. After looking at the quotes, your group has to come up with one definition, one sentence of what nonviolence means. And then you are going to create 5 principles that one should follow to live a life of nonviolence? What are principles? 5 principles.
Rules you live by?
Rules you live by. So after looking at the quotes and seeing other people's thoughts on nonviolence, you have to create 5 rules, okay? And then you are going to choose a conflict. What was the conflict during the civil rights movement? Lucia.
Like when students were marching, they were being closed, and there was
But what were they marching for? Their freedom. What else were they marching for? To have equal education. Tyler? Their rights. Equality. Okay, Aiden?
Access to public places.
Access to public spaces. So they wanted to be equal. That was their conflict. They were fighting that injustice. So you're going to choose a conflict that you face in your life. What could be a conflict we face in our lives? Something that you might come across. Bullying. So anything at school, home, or the community. And then you are going to create an action plan, step by step. How are you going to solve that problem using your nonviolent strategies, your nonviolent beliefs? We understand? Okay, go. You can sit anywhere in the classroom, get into your group, send one person to come get your handout.
Lizzie, are we supposed to read all 56 questions of quotes?
Just look through some of them and choose ones that you think are significant that you can use in your definition. So maybe one from each group can take some and then figure out which ones you want to use to come up with your definition.
So I think he's saying like it's not about how you're able.
Darkness cannot drive light. Only light can do that. So light would be like peaceful and darkness would be like clouds. Hate cannot drive on me. Only love can do that. What is this for now? So bullying.
Okay, did we come up with a definition for nonviolence?
Yeah.
All right, so what did this group come up with?
Nonviolence is a way of life to speak up and not fight.
So nonviolence is a way of life to speak up and not fight. So what helped influence this definition?
The article we choose was by Mahatma Gandhi.
So by Gandhi, okay.
Nonviolence is the first article of my faith. It is also the last article of my creed.
Okay, so how did that influence your definition?
Because that shows that's his religion, that he will always follow it. So it's his way of life, like a real religion. So he would always believe on his religion no matter what.
So how would that be used for someone who might come across a situation today?
To always believe in the nonviolent ways.
Okay, good. All right, so come up with your principles. All right, so did we come up with a quote for nonviolence? Not quote, a definition.
Yes.
Okay, so read your definition to me.
The definition of nonviolence is peace and using peaceful acts instead of violence.
Okay, so what helped influence this definition?
Well, what helped us, it was we read these, and they almost all mean love and peace, like to fight with nonviolence.
So love and peace. So why do you think that would help in a conflict we might come across today, to believe in love and peace?
Because it can help us to do more right things than bad things.
Okay, what else do we think?
That'll help like with people who like come across a problem with people who are like discriminated. If they use like bad tactics, like they try to ridicule you, use like peaceful tactics, then that'll show them that you're peaceful and you're not like that.
All right, very good. All right, so now I want you to use your definition to come up with your principles or your beliefs to live a nonviolent life. Yeah, Abigail.
For the bullying part, for the steps, do we use ours or do we use like in general one?
Okay, so these are your principles. So this is your way of life. Like you said, religion brings a nonviolent way of life. So this is your way of life. So how would you use those to come up with steps of how you would deal with bullying? So it's not the exact same thing, but this is your way of life. And now what steps would you use to combat that? Step 1, what would it be? Okay? To speak up maybe, okay? So come up with exact steps how to solve this non-violently. Okay?
So like we put things like steps on being against bullying, like
If you were in a bullying situation, how would you combat it non-violently? So someone is bullying you. So maybe you want to do the scenario first. I'm being bullied, someone's making fun of me. However you want to do it. Now, how are you going to solve that non-violently? How do you not become the bully? Okay? All right.
So we're gonna use like Kumar or Nine or
This is your way of life. So you know you want to solve it non-violently. So what specifically can you do to solve it non-violently? All right?
okay, so
Sir, come to violence. What do you mean by that? In what kind of situation would you have to have a choice of violence or non-violence?
Like protesting against other things people do.
Okay, so protesting, but what about in our life today? When would we have to make a decision to be violent or non-violent?
Like during a person that's being bullied.
So a person who's bullied. So you can either choose to be violent or you can choose to be non-violent, okay? So you're saying don't succumb to it, stay non-violent. What's another principle?
Protest peacefully.
Okay, so why protest peacefully and what do you mean by that?
Like if somebody is like doing something that you don't like.
Okay, so you see an injustice, right? Okay.
You don't use violence to stop them.
So what would be a way we can protest peacefully? Marches. What's another way we could protest peacefully? So writing an article, that's a really good way. So maybe to a newspaper, telling them ways that we can deal with it. Okay, let's do one more. What's another principle you guys wrote? So why leadership? What does that mean?
it means for people to show.
So why would you have to show leadership in a non-violence, any form of non-violence against a conflict? Why would we want leadership?
so they can prove that they can live with one.
Okay, but remember, we're not just talking about the civil rights movement, we're talking about in general, today too. Why would you want to be a non-violent leader? Or how would this look like in our life?
It would show that we're for a cause and we're going to keep protesting and keep doing nonviolence.
Okay, so why would you need to be a leader? What would the purpose to be a leader for non-violence be?
To lead the people.
To lead people to agree with you and also solve problems non-violently. Okay, so I want you guys to give me more detail. So these first three are really good, but tell me exactly what that looks like. Okay, very good. Okay, after you're finished coming up with your principles and also your action plan, you're going to come get one of these small poster boards. On the top, you write your definition for nonviolence. And then you are going to write your 5 principles. Now, when we present these, you are going to explain the conflict that you guys discussed and your action plan. So you need to come up with a presentation of how your principles are going to show up in your action plan. We understand? So, definition, principles when you're done. Okay? All right.
Should I stop it? Yeah? No?